Good morning and welcome to this webinar, which is about film and TV, one of the Discover Insight webinars. Discover run these from time to time, and today's is from ScreenSkills. I work for ScreenSkills, which is a skills organisation for screen in the UK, and we cover film and television, but we also cover animation, visual effects and games. Just a bit of housekeeping. A little bit later on, there'll be time for questions. Please put those in the Q&A box. But we'd love it if you would use the chat just to say where you're from in the country, which school you're from, and how many pupils are with you. So that'd be really nice. So I'm just going to introduce our lovely panel now, if I can see them, Freya, Alia and Neca, if you can switch your cameras on, and then everybody can see you. So Alia Lauren Klein is a former ScreenSkills trainee, and she's a sound assistant. She's got a boom behind her. Neca Tamana is one of our accounts apprentices, and she's now an accounts trainee. And Freya Baker-Duffin is in Birmingham, and she did a BBC apprenticeship and is just starting as a camera trainee with ScreenSkills. So in film and television, there were lots of different jobs. We need electricians, we need specialist plasterers, scene painters, there's sound, there's production accounts, there are production managers. There are so many different jobs. On the ScreenSkills website, we've got 260 different job profiles if you want to look at them for jobs in screen. So there are a lot more jobs than you think about. And some of those, like accounts and sound, aren't always things that you would think about. So first of all, I'm going to introduce Alia, who does sound, and just ask her from sort of leaving school or just before that, how did you get into what you do now?
So I decided to go to university for filmmaking. And so because in university you get to collaborate with other students on films, I realized very quickly that I was very good at sound recording. And so during that time, because I was staying in Cardiff in Wales, I got involved with different initiatives. So there's Folio BBC short films, BFI short films, BBC It's My Shout. It's these short film initiatives where a lot of young people get together and then they form a crew and they get to put that on their CV at the end. And so having those short film credits on my CV then helped me apply for the ScreenSkills trainee finder. And it's thanks to the trainee finder that I got my first 3 jobs in the industry with different TV shows.
That's great. And did you really know you wanted to do that before you left school, or was it something you decided you might do as soon as you were doing all this filmmaking in your spare time?
I'd say it's in my second year at university that I realized that I had a knack for sound. Everyone told me that I was doing a good job, and I just really enjoyed being in charge of the microphones and the sound recording on set.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's one of those things, sound, that people don't always think about. Now, Freya, you took a completely different route after school. Why did you do that? How did it all come about?
Yeah, so I finished my A levels and I didn't really feel like uni was the right option for me. Um, I just, yeah, it just didn't really appeal to me. So I applied for apprenticeships instead. There's so many good apprenticeships and trainee schemes out there, and I ended up getting one with the BBC in Birmingham. And that's what I kind of have been doing for the past 20 months. And through that, I've got to try out so many different areas, and I've realized that camera is the department that I want to be in. And then through that, I've kind of applied for the ScreenSkills trainee finder through the experience I got with the BBC, and now I'm going to be a camera trainee with ScreenSkills and film.
And camera's quite technical sometimes, isn't it? Have you got any science A levels or anything like that?
No, nothing like that. I did for my A levels, I did film studies, economics, and history because I wasn't sure where I wanted to end up. So I just picked
Mm.
things that I enjoyed, even though they don't necessarily fit together, but they will kind of help me in different ways. Just picking ones that I enjoyed and was passionate about.
Yeah, so that's a bit of myth busting there. I think everybody thinks you have to know loads about physics and lenses, and probably
No.
if you learn on the job, you don't. And then Neca, I'm just going to come to you. So you've had a bit of a circuitous journey for after school. Just tell us about it and how you eventually decided what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I went to university for biomedical sciences, so completely different. And I was planning to go in to medicine through like a graduate scheme. So during that time, I had been a healthcare assistant in the NHS, and for me to get the experience to see how it goes. And then COVID came about, and things were very hard, and it was just a really tough time for me. So I decided to take a step back and do admin in the NHS and just kind of have an easier day-to-day life so I can kind of figure out now that I don't want to like continue down the clinical route, what should I do? And I was thinking of um finance, maybe applying for graduate entry roles since I have a degree. But I was applying for them, it's very competitive. And I one day was just watching a film, saw the red credits roll in, and I saw production accountant, and I was like, okay. Then I searched it, saw ScreenSkills, and I saw that they had an apprenticeship. I had just missed out on that cohort to apply by a week. So I just subscribed to the newsletters, and when it came back again, I applied, got in, and that's how I got into um, the apprenticeship. So very, I kind of, obviously it wasn't planned out, but I did kind of fall into it once I figured out, okay, let me try this. And I was lucky enough to be on that cohort.
And what was the apprenticeship like? What did you do? How
Mhm.
many placements?
I ended up doing 3 placements. I was under Amazon, so a lot of my productions would have been Amazon related. So I did a TV show for 6 months. That was great. And then I transferred over to an accounting firm and I did 2 films. And the apprenticeship was hardcore because you're doing long work hours in film, which are can be 10, 11 hours. And then I also was studying for exams. ScreenSkills was so good in the sense that we had workshops, we had training, we had other things to get us familiar with the industry. So there were so many other things to do that even though it was hectic, I was at least able to kind of see the end of the road because I was like, okay, these are people who've gone through coming into the industry and they're able to like tell us their insight, their experience. But yeah,
Hmm.
really
And
helpful.
just talking about placements earlier, when you were on Trainee Finder doing sound, where were your placements?
So I did some placements for Paramount, for Apple TV, and for ITV as well. It was very different projects. One of them was kind of a horror thriller. The other one involved a lot of explosions. And the last one was more of a spy drama. So it was all very exciting.
And Freya, again about placements on your apprenticeship with the BBC. What sort of placements did you do?
Well, I've done some internal work at the BBC on shows like Doctors, but then also as part of the apprenticeship, they send you out to placements at independent production companies. So through that, I've got to work at a stop motion animation company. I've got to work on travel log shows like Travel Man and Guy Martin shows and things like that. So it's been nice to have an experience of inside the BBC and outside.
Yeah, and what made you kind of settle on camera in the end? What experience made you think I can do that?
It kind of started a bit before my apprenticeship when I got my first ever job in TV, which I got through work experience as soon as I turned 18, because I know it can be hard to find work experience if you're under 18. So as soon as I turned 18, I was contacting people and applying for things, and there was a CBBC show that was filming near me. So I went there and did 2 weeks, and I tried out loads of different departments. And the last one actually I tried out was the camera department, and I loved it so much. I was like, can I spend the rest of my work experience here? And then, luckily enough, an opportunity kind of came up right after because one of the members of the camera department was taking time off. So everyone stepped up, and then there was kind of availability for a B camera trainee for daily work. And they said, do you want to come on and do it? And that was my first paid job. And then I went on the apprenticeship and continued to pursue camera, and it's always kind of been there since.
That's great. I'm going to come back to you, Alia, and just ask you what sort of skills you think you need to actually do the job. And was there anything that surprised you when you started working on a set?
I think the thing that's most surprising is just the amount of detail that goes into the work every day, and also the amount of people that you're working with every day. So it's really good to, even if you're really bad with names, like just try and speak to as many people as possible and remember their faces and remember what department they're in, because every day you're going to be talking to people trying to find out information on where you need to be and what's happening so that your department can be in the right place at the right time. So overall, it's a lot of anticipating and collaborating and making sure that you know what shots are going to be filmed so that you can be ready for the shot, like sound wise. So I'd say you need a good ear both for the audio you're recording because you're listening to that every day, and also for eavesdropping, kind of just to see what people are talking about. If you can have a good memory to remember where all of the equipment is. It's also I'd say it's good to have a certain level of fitness, but I was really not fit when I started. And it's kind of as you're working that you kind of develop the stamina and like the muscles in the arms to help you out because you're kind of standing all day. It's important to be curious because no one's going to come up and teach you things. You have to keep asking questions, be like, what is this doing? What are you doing right now? And honestly, people are more than happy to answer any questions you have. One of the most important things is being on time. So if you can try to be early a little bit, that's helpful. No one likes someone who's late, so that makes a very bad impression. And yeah, I think that's about it.
And Freya, you've worked on some Alia's talking about film and television drama, but you've worked on some TV shows as well. What sort of skills have you needed, and what do you think the difference is between you've done a bit of drama and a bit of other sorts of TV shows? What's the difference, do you think, in the skills that you need?
Honestly, I think they're pretty, for base skills, I think they're pretty similar. I would say the most important thing that I've learned is if you have passion, you're already kind of halfway there. People like want to see someone who cares about their job and who's excited about it and wants to ask questions and learn. And I think you can pick up all the other things along the way if you're passionate. Like I didn't know anything about camera when I started my first job, and just through it exciting me and asking questions, I've kind of picked up everything I need to know. It's such a learn as you go industry, I think. And as long as you like are caring, like care about asking questions and wanting to know things, um, you'll learn everything you need to know. And secondary to that, things like punctuality, and taking initiative and always kind of like not sit like on set, not sitting back and thinking, oh, okay, I've done my job. Always thinking, what can I do next? What's happening next? What needs to be prepared for it? What might that person need? Things like that. And also, yeah, just always trying your best, giving 100%, chatting to people, asking them about their jobs, showing that kind of initiative, I would say are the main skills.
And Neka, what about the skills you need on a day-to-day basis? I know accounts is a lot more sociable than people think it is. And also, it's not like being an accountant at an accounts company in a way, is it? Because you're spending money and not, and you haven't got money coming in.
Yeah. With accounts, I would say attention to detail. I would also say being able to adapt to change, because with accounts, most of the time, if you're on a production, accounts will be in the same office or nearby the production office. So people will be coming in to speak to the production and will be coming in to speak to accounts. So you kind of have to learn how to speak to different types of people. You have to be patient. You have to understand that some people might get riled up, especially if they don't understand about taxes, if they don't understand about any delays. Like we obviously have a system and people have to input their invoices by a certain time. So just like explaining it to people, making sure people are understand it. So yeah, I it's very people facing. A lot of people come in just to for you to explain certain principles and just simple things. So I think you have to be good at listening, and I think you have to be a good teacher.
And you're talking about explaining to people how they're paid. A lot of people in film and television are freelance, and I don't know whether some of the people listening to this might understand what that is. So, Mecca, can you just explain what being freelance means? And because you're an accountant, you can tell people how they get paid.
Yeah. So in TV and film, most of the time people are paid weekly, but in 1 week's arrear. And majority of people are freelance, but due to like government changes, the people who are like assistant level, they will be paid under pay as you go. So they'll be paid as if they are employees under that production. So their taxes should be all right. They don't have to like kind of worry about that stuff. But it's always good to know because you might be the wrong taxed with the wrong tax code. But the rest of the people who send in invoices, they can be Schedule D, which is a type of self-employment, or they can be a limited company. So all of these things, I think people would need to understand that you'll be going job to job, and there's certain things that you need to remember. So if you're a assistant and you're being paid PAYE, you have to remember you need to have your P45 form when you leave another job, and make sure you send that to your new job so that they can tax you correctly. It's just simple things, but it's just good to know.
Alia, I'm just going to come back to you and ask about because you're working freelance. It's not for everybody. This is not you get a job and you turn up every day. This is you work on different projects going forward. And even for the broadcasters like the BBC and ITV, that happens sometimes as well, where people are on, sort of a very short contract or something like that. So how do you go about organizing your life around being freelance, do you think? Because you've done it for a while now.
Yeah, so the way I organize it is I have a coffee shop that I work regularly at in between jobs. So I usually just head back there because I'm good friends with the owner. And then otherwise, you don't necessarily have to work in between jobs sometimes because if you've made enough money and you've put enough money aside, then it can sustain you whilst you're waiting for the next job to come around. What a lot of people say is that it's kind of slow to get started. I mean, I've had at most 2 months of unemployment between jobs, but then a job will last around 4 months. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of okay. And the most important thing is to keep like contacting people during your time off, because that's how the next job's going to come around.
Freya, you were nodding there about, sort of finding work. You're going to be sort of tipped into a kind of freelance world very soon. How do you feel about that?
Well, yeah, it is nerve-wracking, especially the way that jobs work in the industry. Like you could have an interview one week and you could be starting on Monday the next week and things like that. Sometimes things can be quite short notice, but I think if you're passionate about the job and if you're okay with living that kind of lifestyle, as you said, it's not something where you've got a set base and you go to work in the same place every day and live in the same place every day. Like you have to probably travel around up and down the country. For me, especially living in Birmingham, there's not it's getting so much better, but there's not like the industry that there is up north or down in London for film and TV. So I know I'm definitely going to have to travel about, and it kind of depends where your bases are and where you live to start off with. Because obviously if you're in London, you'll be nearer to things naturally. But yeah, it's slightly nerve-wracking, actually.
Yeah. It is when you're at school and you're thinking of what you might do. And there are sort of more permanent jobs. I mean, I've been freelance, but I worked for the BBC for quite a long time as well. So, there are jobs at the broadcasters and some of the bigger production companies like Warner Brothers and, have more permanent staff. But a lot of the exciting stuff on set is freelance. And I think it's just worth mentioning that. And for people, especially as they get to sort of 16, being aware of that. And the other thing I'm going to say at this point is for people between 16 and 19, there's the BFI Academy in most places in all around the country, and they do filmmaking courses and other courses for young people aged 16 to 25. Actually, they go up to, but the main ones are 16 to 19. So that is something you can do. And Neka taught us a really important lesson earlier on about reading the credits. So she realized that role existed because she read the credits. And if you look at the credits at the end of the film, you will see all the individuals, all the jobs, and all the people who've been involved in that film. So it's worth doing that sometimes. And Neka, you're just going into being freelance as well, but you're very financially aware. So how are you thinking about that?
So I finished my apprenticeship in January, and I've been able to take 2 months off because I saved up a handful of money, and I got onto the ScreenSkills trainee finder. So for me, I've been just using this time to get a bit savvier with my pension information, with ISAs and etc., and kind of making sure that I'm setting myself up, because it's all good having being able to work on these amazing shows, but we do need time to rest. And I think if people are able to kind of have that at the front of their mind, talking about pensions, talking about other savings that they can have, so that they won't be burnt out. Because an issue I've noticed with people in the industry is people hop job to job, and we do make a lot of money in the industry, but I think because people are kind of scared of taking a break because, oh, the phone line will stop ringing. But I think you being well rested is the most beneficial thing for you, rather than going around and kind of like, okay, this job was stressful, but I need to go to the next job.
We've got some good questions here, Margaret, and a few of them are for you because they're specific to ScreenSkills.
Okay.
So the first one is, what do young people have to do to have presence on ScreenSkills Trainee Finder?
Trainee Finder recruits by department, so you do need a little bit of experience before you apply for it. So Trainee Finder is for people over 18 who've got some professional experience, but less than 12 months professional experience. So it's not something that you would do immediately after leaving education, but some people who have had some experiences like Alia did, making films and things like that, might be ready for that. But you have to know which department you want to work in, whether you want to work in the art department, whether you want to work in, the camera department, whether you want to make props, all that sort of thing. You need to know what you want to do before you apply.
Okay, and this one's related. It says, how would you recommend an A-level student enter a career in TV and film? Because ScreenSkills only allows you to create an account if you're over 18.
Yes, the reason for that is safeguarding, actually, because we have to, for our funders, ask diversity questions that we can't ask people who are under 18. And there are limits to a lot of things for under 18 in film and television, which is a bit of a shame, really, but some of it's to do with safeguarding, some of it's to do with health and safety on set. And also, if you wanted to do visual effects or post-production, that's editing, all of those companies, and animation as well, all of those companies have what we call NDAs, which is non-disclosure agreements, because what they make is secret until it's screened. And if you could sign an NDA agreement if you're under 18, but it doesn't have any legal validity. So so those are some of the reasons why there isn't very much work experience. Now, Freya did some work experience. That was the BBC. The broadcasters have good work experience, and they have good work experience opportunities, and they also have apprenticeships. Yeah.
And again, this is related, and this is for Freya. Somebody said that Freya's got work experience at age 18. If you have no contacts in the industry, where do you begin to look for opportunities?
Yeah, I can appreciate how difficult it is to find work experience if you don't know anyone or anything like that. I started by looking at productions in my local area that were filming near me, really try and keep up to date on what's happening in your area if you can, because this one was filming where I live, and that was kind of one of my lines when I initially reached out to people. I would also say look for shows. When you look at shows that film near you, if they've already got a few seasons out, look at the credits and look who's on them, and look for the production coordinator and the production manager, because those are usually the people that will sort out work experience and also hiring. And then do a bit of looking them up, see what they've worked on, maybe find them on LinkedIn and send them a message if you can. It's a lot of cold calling and cold emailing. Just saying who you are, what you're passionate about, if there's any opportunities for work experience, this is where you live. It helps if you really like the show, because you can mention that as well. And it's always nice for people to give work experience to someone who has watched the show and enjoys it. But it's really hard with cold emailing, because a lot of the time, like 90% of the time, you don't get a reply. And that's quite hard, but it's nothing personal. People are just really busy. But that time that you do get a reply could be some work experience. So yeah, I'd say look at companies and TV shows in your area, tell them why you like them, reach out, find someone's email, find multiple people's emails that work on it, and just knock on doors till one opens.
Yeah, it is quite difficult with work experience in the industry since COVID, actually. There's a lot less than there used to be. But I was on a call yesterday with some other organisations, and we were talking about how we can make more work experience available to young people who want to get into the industry. What else have we got, Amanda?
This is a good one about it's hard to know what you want to do if you've never done it. How can you find out in such a varied industry where the jobs are largely invisible? So, yeah.
I think I mentioned before that on the ScreenSkills website, we have 260 job profiles and 10 career maps, and they show you all the different jobs in Screen. If you're looking at something that's a bit broader, the Discover website has over 500 different jobs in the creative industries. So some people work across other things. I mean, I noticed that Alia said she works in a coffee shop in between things, and that's what we call a portfolio career. So we have a lot of people who work in Screen who do other kinds of jobs. A lot of animation companies, for example, do advertising as well. So, and a lot of individual freelancers have more than one job. So it is a very varied, the whole of the creators industry is very varied, and film and TV, you get people with all sorts of different skills doing a real variety of different jobs. What have we got next?
Let's have a look. Okay. Any advice on how a young person with a disability can get experience within the industry?
The industry has quite strict disability targets now, and I can remember visiting a set in Manchester where the script supervisor was in a wheelchair, and they had designed and built the whole set so that they got ramps up and down, and then everybody found the whole set much easier because they could, you know, put equipment up and down the ramps. Some of the best, it's really, recruitment wise, it's really quite difficult for people with disabilities. I know that because of the way, because things are financed at short notice, people have to crew up really quickly. But the BBC and ITV and Channel 4 and some of the bigger companies, again, I mentioned Warner Brothers because they have a scheme. They do have where there's a bigger scheme, that there are always a large percentage of places for people with disabilities, and that goes for other things. I mean, there's a documentary scheme that is run across the country, and they have places for disabled young people. So there are it's the problem is with the schemes and entry level is that you can't look in one place, and not all of them. The BBC apprenticeships and the ITV and Channel 4 ones run every year, but a lot of these other schemes are a little bit more, you know, sort of few and far between. So you've just got to really do your research and find out the sort of companies you might like to work for, what schemes they might have, and that sort of thing. there's an awful lot of research involved in looking for what you want in film and television, because you've got a lot of small companies. What's
Thanks,
the next
Margaret.
one?
So we've got one for NECA, and it says, has NECA got the full 6-7 accountancy qualifications through her apprenticeship?
I have the level 3 AAT standard qualification. So I think it's the assistant accountant standards, and then they altered it to make it more suitable for production. So it's level 3. It's not the level 6 or 7. To be honest, for accounts, a lot of it is learning on the job, and a lot of people in the industry won't have certain qualifications. So having the level 3 has been like a bonus, because other people don't have it, and you're able to know a lot of the principles and a lot of the reasonings behind some of the accounting that we do and the bookkeeping element. But yeah, it's not the level 6. The level 6 is not really needed. But if you do the level 2 or level 3 AAT, it's a bonus for you.
Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, what could a younger person around GCSE N5 level do to get towards a film career?
I think I just think make stuff. I mean, you can make a feature film on an iPhone. It's been done 2 or 3 times, and just understand what's involved in that. And I also think that sometimes young people make their own films and think they can walk straight in to a big film set and be a director or something, and it's kind of not like that. A film set or a drama set is a very structured machine with different parts that work together. So you just have to start at the bottom, even if you move up fairly quickly. But just looking at subjects, I don't think that matters so much. I think people skills are very important because it's a very sociable industry, and you need to be able to work in a team. You need to be able to be on time. That's been mentioned a lot of times, because, you know, a filming day costs an awful lot of money, or whatever you're doing, even if you're sort of in the back of it, it's a lot of money. And if you turn up late, it puts it all out. If just one part of that machine isn't there, it doesn't work too well. So it doesn't matter what subjects you do. You don't necessarily have to study film. There are a lot of researchers, for example, in unscripted television, that's documentaries and entertainment, who did history degrees because they're good at research. It makes them good at research. So whatever skills that you've got, you do need those people skills as well. I think they're more important than anything.
And this one is for all the panelists. Do you think that having a degree has helped your career?
Well, I'll start with Freya because she doesn't have one.
Yeah, I don't have a degree, and I don't think that that's held me back at all. I don't personally, because it's such a learning on the job industry, I don't think it's something that's like make or break at all. I don't find that it's held me back at all. I think it's good for things like it's really good for finding collaborators and people who are like at the same stage as you, and you get to use like equipment, and they can help you with industry contacts and work experience. But I don't think that it's something that you can't do on your own. Like, you can also experience all of those things without it. And as I said, it hasn't affected me or stopped me getting jobs, not having a degree.
NECA, you have a degree, but it was a degree in something different, but it did help you to decide what you wanted to do and what you didn't.
Yeah, so I did biomed because I had an idea of maybe working in a lab. So by doing work experience on that, I think in my second year during summer, I was doing it as a full-time job, experiencing it. I didn't like it at all. So I was able to like rule that out and then move on to the next thing that was on my list. And I think for me, having a degree has helped me personally. I don't think it's helped in sense of my career, but I think it's helped me in terms of like learning like different skills, being able to like move out and then like I just think it's more of a personal choice. So if people do want to go to uni, maybe they should figure out obviously what they can get out of it personally, and then what it can bring in terms of a career. But it shouldn't be a waste. But I know it's hard because the cost and everything, and then if you know what you want to do, you might as well just go and get it. But it's a good place to figure things out for sure.
And Alia, you do have a degree. So what do you think about that one?
I think one of the benefits of being in university is you get to connect with people your age who are entering the industry at the same time as you. So that's good if you like to connect with like independent filmmakers, because a lot of filmmakers will end up going into like commercials after graduating, because it is incredibly difficult to actually enter the industry. When it comes to starting to work in film and TV, it really has to do with how much networking you're doing outside of uni. And then university is more there for personal development, because it will give you equipment that you can practice on. It does teach you more how to do like the higher level roles. So if you start off with an apprenticeship or something, you'll be a trainee or an assistant, where maybe you're only helping with accessories and you can't really touch the boom pole or the recorder right away. Whereas in university, they'll let you be the sound recordist, which is good if you want to go off and do things on your own, like documentary style. But at the same time, if your pure goal is to progress in film and TV, then it's very much a like climbing up the ladder sort of progression. And so you can easily just start off with work experience and go up that way. So it has to do with, you know, how you want to train for your role and what is your end goal at the end of the day. But if you're unsure, just, you know, reach out to people who are working, tell them what you have in mind, and then they can probably advise you on what's the best, you know, training path for you to take.
I'm just going to say here that Alia, if anybody's interested in sound, Alia has put together for us a few clips which just show you how the sound works on a film, and we'll send those out to you. And I can see that we've got loads of questions in there, and we've only got time for another sort of 2 max. So we will look at all your questions, and then we'll answer those and send out, you know, sort of some answers to those questions. I'll just also say that the ScreenSkills apprenticeships, we did 2 pilots. These were pilots where we employed the apprentices, and they had 2 or 3 different placements. This is something we're trying to persuade the government to do, because apprenticeships are difficult for film and television, because you have to be an apprentice for a year, and most projects don't last a year. So it solves that problem, having a shared scheme. We haven't got another one coming up in the future, but we're trying to convince the government to go over to that model. Next question, Amanda, what have we got?
Okay, yeah, let's have 2 more. So I'm going to go with, if you wish to get involved in a film career, would you recommend applying for different film festival competitions?
So Alia, what about competitions? Have you ever entered any?
I think the main one that comes to mind is the sort of 48-hour film competitions. Those are really fun because it's just 2 days of people coming together to make some films. And because it's only 2 days, if there's a role that you haven't tried out that yet, then you can try and do that. And at the end, you always have a small something that you can add to your portfolio. So I think those are quite fun.
Yeah. Freya, any competitions or anything on your horizon that you did?
Yeah, because I also make short films quite a bit in my spare time. So there have been a couple that I've entered, and films that I've worked on have won various awards, and I think they are good to say that this is how passionate I am. I'm also doing this in my spare time. You can put them on your CV, the awards that you've won. And also, when you go to the festivals, there's always lots of people there that you can meet and chat to about the different films, and that's possible collaboration or possible jobs in the future. So they're really good for networking as well.
I'm just going to keep this brief. What's the next one, Amanda?
The final question is, what places should you look at for opportunities when doing research?
Anything you found useful? Necker, I'll come to you first. When you were looking for opportunities and you thought you might do production accounts, where did you look?
ScreenSkills website, and Later on, when I got on the apprenticeship, I was able to find out about Equal Access Network, which is part of Film London, and they do like a newsletter, and they send out like many junior roles for people or people who have like a few credits, and that's a newsletter that I get. I think maybe every 2 weeks or every week. And then they also do workshops, they also do networking events. So if you're London based, that is quite helpful. They do include stuff outside London, but you just have to see the newsletter and then figure things out. And their network is quite good because I went to a networking event and I connected with the team, and then they got me into contact with other assistant production accountants, because I was saying like I haven't really spoken to many people like at the same level as me. I've spoken to like quite senior people. So I wanted that connection, and they've been really helpful.
Time is almost up. So in 20 seconds, Alia, where would you do research? And then same for Freya in a minute.
So it very much depends on the region you're in. So look up local initiatives. And then one I know is Film Bang, where they list a lot of people who work in the industry, although I think it's more Scotland focused. And then something that people in the industry use to know what jobs are coming up is a magazine called The Oracle, but it's like £20 a month. So that's why like people only use it if they're actively looking for work, because it does list what productions are coming up and who's involved and stuff like that.
Freya, where did you research?
I would say LinkedIn is a really big one for me. Like connect with as many people as you can, because people will post links to articles and jobs. If you connect with people that are local to you, they'll probably put stuff on, articles announcing, oh, this is being filmed, production starting on this in your area, which I think is really helpful. There's also a lot of free subscriptions to magazines like Broadcast and things like that, where you can just stay up to date on the industry, because I think it's so important, staying up to date on what's happening at the moment.
I'm going to interrupt you now because we're just going over time. So thank you to Alia and Freya and Neka. Thank you very much for giving up your time today. We will send you a follow-up to this, and I know sort of if you're in school, you've probably got a bell ringing in a minute. So thank you very much, and do keep looking at the Discover website and the ScreenSkills website, because there's loads of information on there, and it's been very nice to talk to you all. Thank you very much.